It's what's gonna happen is we'll get that weird echo thing because I probably have the sound on. There we go. And now we should be good. Okay, everybody. Welcome to Friday. We made it. Cheers. And so tonight's topic, we're gonna do um, sort of like an origin story, and I'll explain how we came up with that topic when it's time. And and also since hey, it's Pie Day, so we have to talk about pies. But before we do, there are some ground rules. We need to make sure everybody that wants in gets in. And so we do have some rules. We do have to keep our swearing and belching to a minimum. Okay. And other than that, we're good to go. Um, and so what we'll do, we'll step into our, um, excuse me, I can't talk and admit at the same time. There we go. Get into our notes from the field. We have Rob has his hand up, so we'll start with Robert. Let us know what you did.
The first thing that I did was I got a event cache published in Hawaii for the time around Cache Fest. So if any of you are going to be at Cache Fest, I will have an event. I will post the GC number in the chat.
Okay.
So if any of you are going to be there, you can come and see me at the event on Thursday. And the other thing I did was I did a little caching both today for Pi Day in order to get the souvenir, and then the on Wednesday I did some caching. And in doing so, I went on this open space where a cache got published by an owner, and I went to find this cache, and I was stopped by a security guard, followed by two policemen who started questioning me, and then I was detained for 15 minutes while they were discovering what geocaching was. After that, we were able to convince to get the handcuffs off, and they let me go on my way. The cache sadly had to get archived after that.
Right. So, did I hear you right? The handcuffs came off?
Yeah, I was detained, so they that means they'll put the handcuffs on you while they figure things out, and you're just standing in handcuffs answering yes or no questions until they figure out you're no longer in need of being detained, or they should arrest you. One of the two. Luckily, they didn't go that far.
So, Mongo Jim's asking, were you wearing a hoodie?
No, I was wearing just a leather jacket, and I had on my bicycle helmet and rode my bike over to the area. And yeah, they just apparently it was private property, and no one told the geocacher that. So
Right.
private
Did you write
property,
it up?
they only went on there. So
Did you write it up in your log so everyone gets to share your experience?
yeah, I wrote up my log, and then the owner archived it just to prevent other people from suffering the same fate.
Well, if you have a chance, put a link to the log in the chat. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I will copy and paste what I wrote in my log, and I will put it onto the chat so you can all read it.
Yeah, one of our locals here had exactly the same experience a few years ago. So
Yeah, I was never arrested, but I was just
yeah,
detained for questioning. But
Oh, post the GC code.
I will. I yeah, and then I did Pi Day. I hosted an event and I served pie. And I then had a little time to grab mystery cache before work.
I see I opened up your event page. That's going to be July 10th.
Correct.
Yep. Awesome.
As long as nothing happens, unforeseen act of God or something happens or I have to cancel. But Hopefully it still go come that time.
5 to 10, who knows, right?
Yeah, truly. Anything can happen in between there and now.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks. Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing that GC code in the log. And we'll move on next to Melissa.
Yes, so I had a lovely Pie Day celebration. Started the day off buying apple pie at the grocery store on the way to pick up my grandsons. Had them for the day, and then when we took them home, my husband came with me to a geocaching Pie Day celebration. It's the first event he's gone to since going caching. So he went with me, and this is the third year that Geocacher has hosted this Pie Day event. And he serves pizza, and somebody always brings pie for dessert. So, and I took chips because I knew the pie and the pizza were already taken care of. So, but we had a fun time, and we got a regular traditional in the park. But yeah, I still have to get that mystery tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
Well,
exactly right. It's a mystery cache that needs to be found today, tomorrow, or Sunday.
yeah, there just wasn't one close enough to where we were.
Oh, okay. One that you'd already solved, is that it? Or
Um, yeah, there were some that posted, but they were about 5 miles away.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
just
yeah, I've got
weren't
a
enough hours.
I probably got like 15 on a list that I've solved and just for this type of occasion. Okay, now I can go get one
Yeah,
without having to try and, solve a puzzle again. Well,
yeah.
cool. So yeah, your husband, this is wearing you out like an event every 6 months, huh?
Hey, the last time he went to an event, you were there, JD.
Yeah, we met. Oh,
But
very
hey,
good.
he's like, well, maybe I should go to one of these that's local.
Well, Pi days are always fun. Matter of fact, we are missing one right now for our semi-local. It's the exact same time, but um, it's a almost a commute for me. For Mountain Goat Jim, it'd be like he should have left yesterday if he wanted to get there. So
Well, you
yeah,
don't get
it's
a
a
souvenir for it anyway, do you?
no. You gotta get um the mystery cache.
I went out and found 3 caches today, but they were all trads. And I thought I'd get the souvenir, but I guess I learned something. Have 2 more days, so.
They sent it out in the logbook that they emailed to everyone that you had to get a mystery cache to get the Pi Day souvenir.
Yeah.
It's generally that's where I get my info, but I also generally fail to read it. So it's okay, cool. Well, we got thanks, Melissa. We got Jim Starcasher.
Yeah, well, let's see. First of all, I'll just say that I went out earlier today and got 2 mysteries. So I haven't logged them yet, but I at least found the 2. But the main thing I wanted to talk about is kind of it's I guess it's related to Pi Day in a way. Uh, I don't know if you guys remember the Seneca County Pizza Trail that
Mhm.
that and the nice little coin that goes with it. But anyways, I heard that they're gonna redo it in a few months, and they are almost out of coins. And so in December, I went through and got about half of the caches. But again, it's getting closer, and I was told they were down to their final few coins. So Tuesday, I went and did a trip and got, I think it was the last 8 of the caches I needed to finish the pizza trail, and I got my little pizza coin with a removable slice of pizza
Yep.
pie. So I haven't activated it yet, so I can't share the code yet. But yeah, so I got my coin, got done with the trail. So that's the big thing I did this week was getting this accomplished, and it's appropriate pizza. 5, whatever.
That's like the most Pi Day thing there is. Nice. Appreciate it. We didn't do any caching last weekend, but we did the weekend before. So the Sunday after our last Mappy hour, we went out to a local wetland conservatory and did about if my watch was accurate, about 3.5 mile loop, and uh, caught a couple geocaches and then a bunch of labs. And it was a fairly nice day that day, and that's about all we did. So saving it up for uh, gosh, next time. I think our next event is going to be Woodstock. Saving it up for that. So Dick, you got your hand up.
Caught me off guard there. JD, I didn't think you were gonna stop talking quite that quick. I'm a little hoarse, coming just getting over a cold, but I'm still in Las Vegas. Peach is in Seattle tonight. She had to go in for mandatory Mariners employee training, even though she's been working for the Mariners for 10 years or 12 years. Still has
He
to
was
go
giving
every
the
year.
training.
Every year, got to go in for mandatory orientation. But then she'll be coming back here tomorrow. Then we're heading north for Seattle later this week. So next time we meet, we'll both be in Seattle. So we're going to go up there and harass the Seattle reviewers for a while. And anyway, our latest activity was since we met last was not this last week, but the week before. We spent 4 days in Hawaii. Went over and got Hawaii's oldest and a bunch of challenge caches and puzzle caches and whatnot. Had a great time. Good weather for most of the days. Morning showers in Hawaii. We'd thought about going to Cache Fest, but decided that was going to be a real crowd scene over there come the Cache Fest time. So we'd go over ahead of time and get it. It's about a mile each way, 300 or 400 feet of vertical each way. So it's a good hike to get the oldest, but we did it pretty hard on these 80-year-old legs, but we managed. Had a good time. So, and then 2 days ago, we did the Geocachers Addiction Run. I don't know if you all have seen it, but they've got this thing going on in Southern California, the cache across Southern California. 42 caches in 10 counties, and it's in conjunction with the Spring Fling, which is the first part of May. So we went over and nibbled on that a few weeks ago and got about half of them. And so we went over Wednesday, drove from Las Vegas down to Ridgecrest, California, where they had the big earthquake not too long ago, and then over to Mojave. Basically a 12-hour, 400 or 500-mile round trip to get 3 caches. It sounds pretty stupid, but it's an addiction. What can I say? So that's our big activity. Now we're getting ready to move north, and then we'll go for that. So I think probably the next big thing we're going to be looking at is probably the April cache machine up in
Yeah.
Oak Harbor,
Oak Harbor?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah, and then we're coming over for our anniversary weekend, hitting the uh doing a Clemson game on Saturday night and a Mariners game Sunday afternoon. And one of those days it's April 13th is that weekend. So uh hopefully if Peach is working, we'll be able to see her again.
yeah, I know she'd enjoy that. I don't know if she's working that day.
Exactly. Yeah.
She may very well be. I'll check with her when she gets back tomorrow. April
Yeah,
13th. You're going to game April 13th?
yeah, but that's Sunday. That's the 13th. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll
And
check.
It's funny, the last time we were there for a game, I think it was uh well, it was in the middle of the summer, and it was Hernandez induction into the Hall of Fame, the Mariners Hall of Fame that time, and we get to the game and we get seated, and then we see a net down front, and we jump up and we run down, and but she was a row over, and we couldn't. The only way we could get to her is like walk on top of the dugout and come around. And so she says, "No, let's go upstairs." And so we went up to the mezzanine and we talked and had fun. Then she had to get back to work. We get back to our seats, and the people sitting next to us said, "That is so cool. You know somebody who works here."
Yeah, she enjoys it. That's her big recreation. She's a huge baseball fan. She really loves it. They had an adventure lab there last year, I think it was, for part of the Mariner Day. They had a geocaching day of one day, and it was kind of a bust. But as part of the adventure lab, they had her as part of the adventure lab. You had to go around and find where a net was working. So she got a big kick out of that. So
That's fun. Thanks, Dick. Well, like I say, this is our origin story day. Let me. The reason I picked this for our topic is let me find if I can see if I can find the exact post. But it was on Facebook, and for some odd reason, this particular post in the um, geocaching group uh, just it struck me like. Uh, I haven't heard it asked this way before. I did find it's by Victoria Bale, Baiel, asking, "How long have you been geocaching?" Okay, that one. But the kicker is, and what made you start? What made you start geocaching? And I thought, you know what? And maybe we've talked about it 100 times, or we've seen it in Facebook 100 times. But to me, that really just that would be a good topic. And so when Lisa asked me what the topic's going to be tonight, well, this is what we came up with. And then a slice of pie. And so, yeah, the origin stories, why did you start? What made you start? Robert, you're up.
So I originally, when I first heard about geocaching was when I was little, and I originally seen like a video for it, but didn't quite understand it. And I thought that it was up in the mountains and maybe like on a campsite or something. It was like something for the kids to do, like a scavenger hunt.
Hmm.
A few years or a decade almost went by before I was living in a community home, and this wonderful nurse that helped take care of us and live with us as a caregiver, she was taking us to Target one day and started talking about geocaching. Her name was Linda Menkel, and it was Starcacher 55 was her caching name. And on that date in August of 2014, she introduced me to geocaching. And it was the first one I ever found was in a parking lot in Target in Westminster, Colorado at the Orchard Mall. And I was able to sign the log and learn geocaching from there and shut up from there to where I'm now 5,000 find cache finder. Sadly, in 2022, Linda Minkel, Starcatcher 55, got pneumonia and she
Hmm.
passed away from it in the hospital. So it was a loss of a great mentor, a great friend, and someone who was a great geocacher. And we had so many great geocaching adventures together. I still call her my geocaching angel to this day.
Hmm. Wow. So you said you started in 2014? Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. So yeah, you're a little behind target because most of us get arrested within the first 3 years, you know, not 11 years later. So, but at
Truly.
least you got it done. That's an important milestone.
I have been encountered caches before, but the truth was I was detained. I was not arrested. There's a difference between the two.
I know, but this is TV, so we got to make it dramatic.
Well, true. We can make it a pie day mystery, and the winner gets a very lustrous Boston cream pie.
So great story, great origin story. Sorry to hear about your friend, but left you
I
with
met
a
The lucky
lasting
thing is I
legacy.
met a new group of friends, a husband and wife by the name of the Bowmans, and we have teamed up and we've been doing some great caching together. So you can always find some new friends after you lose a tough
Oh,
loss like that and be able to rebuild what you've lost.
mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And let's see, I'm looking, I think Mike's hand was up next.
Okay. Yeah, I got started by a new guy hired in at the office where I was working at a number of years ago. And at one point he mentioned geocaching. And so I decided to look it up. And eventually, part of my motivation was just I looked around and there was a geocache half a mile down the road from my house at a defunct Taco Bell. It was basically a magnetic key holder on the down face of the old drive-in window. So that was my first actual find, and I was actually surprised at how entertaining I found geocaching. At first I didn't think it would get me, but it got me. And that cache has since gone just because somebody bought the place and remodeled it to heck and back. And so and then Al proceeded to tell me about the Midwest Geo Bash, which I missed that first year because I didn't have enough lead time to do anything about it. And things have kind of tumbled from there. Now go to several events in the general area. I've actually met some of the people on this call today, and some others who aren't here but sometimes pass in and out. And so it's been interesting. Got a whole new social circle to play with as a result. The funny thing is this sometimes happens with some of the things I get into. Al, who got me into it, has kind of dropped out. Not completely, but I'm not aware that he's done anything lately. So,
And then I'm sorry, when did you say this started for you?
uh, I would actually have to look it up, but 4 or 5 years ago, pre-pandemic. So I'm
Excellent.
good. So
Well,
it's
cool. Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Let's see, we've got Melissa and then Tom.
So in July of 2010, the baby, who was 4, and I went out to see my oldest son, who was in college in California. And my brother lived and worked out there. And so we got together on a Saturday and we're hiking through the redwoods, just having a good time. And my brother said, "Oh, I know something we can do while we're out here in the woods." And so he apparently had done it before and had the correct equipment with him. And so we did our first geocache. And somewhere in the baby, who's now 18 years old, stuff, he still has that first piece of swag he got that day. And my brother didn't have something to leave, but he said, "Don't worry, I come back out in these woods all the time. I'll bring something out." So that was our introduction to geocaching. And then we did it in Scouts. And again, we didn't have the equipment. It was always with somebody else until I got my first GPS in 2014. So, and again, it was still in the woods until 2019. I found out that they actually have these in town. And then you guys introduced me to events. And it's
Yeah.
just been a whole different world since then.
Well, nice. Happy to
I,
help.
I do have a future thing. I'm going on that crochet bus tour of Nova Scotia. And I brought up on our Facebook group, I said, "Hey, while I'm there, I'm a geocacher too. When we have some downtime, I'd like to do this." About 20 people out of 50 on the bus are going with me. I'm excited.
No kidding. That is nice. Well, that
Melissa, you said you got your first GPS unit. What kind of GPS unit was it? An E-Trex
Uh,
or
good
an
question.
eTrex 20.
mine was an E-Trex 10.
And guess what my GPS unit still is today? An eTrex 20.
Mine's an
I use the
E-Trex
phone
30.
some. Yeah, I use the phone some, but I love my GPS.
Me
Is
too.
it same one or a different?
Same one.
Same one. Okay. Nice. Well, excellent. So we have a eTrex 20 and a 30 or a 10?
E-Trex 30, that's the model I use. It has
10. Okay.
maps on it, so it's easier to navigate with a bicycle.
Okay. And what color is it?
It is black and gray.
All right. And Melissa, yours is?
Orange and black.
Hmm. No, yeah, my first was, I believe it was a Garmin as well. Maybe Mountain Goat Jim can help me out, but it was the blue one. And it was like you could almost see through it.
It was an E-Trex Legend.
Yes. And ended up giving it away to a good home because I graduated to the 60C, what was it, CXS? Because it had a color screen, and man, that was something. You could almost load it up with words. You could almost be paperless if you had the right third-party apps. It was awesome. Okay, so Mike says, ah, wow, 9 years ago to the day. Mike started on Pi Day of 2016. That's awesome. Okay, well, thanks, Melissa. Let's hop on over to Tom.
Yeah, I first heard about geocaching when I was working for the Pennsylvania Bureau of Forestry, the Bald Eagle State Forest, and the bomb squad was called out for a geocache that was underneath a bridge.
Mhm.
Yep, they came all the way up from Harrisburg, to 50 miles, and take out the geocache.
Yeah.
But I didn't decide to become a geocacher at that time, but I was using a $4,000 GPS, government owned, and this was before selective availability was turned off. So yeah. So I actually my first geocache find was out here in Oregon on August 31st, 2005, and but I actually took a Magellan XL 2000 with me on a trip to see my daughter, who was in the Air Force, on the island of Terceira in the Azores. And I had a DNF when I was my first log on geocaching.com. So I've been on geocaching.com for more than 20 years now, but August 31st will be my anniversary of my first find. So, yep. And believe it or not, my first find was a first to find. And I met the cache owner not about 10 minutes later. So,
Well, yeah. In your neck of the woods, at that time in the game, um, that makes sense. That could definitely happen, right? Yeah, not like it is today where we have people live and breathe to be first to find, and there's just so many of us know about the game and do the game, and it was personally I put in a personal rule. This is probably 5, 6 years ago. I don't get excited. I don't go out for first to finds unless the actual coordinates are within 528 feet of my home location. Then I might think about it. And the first the first instance of that happening was I got the notification and it was met my specifications, but at the time I was 12 miles away at work. So much for that. Oh,
Yeah,
cool. That's it.
yeah. My furthest first to find from home was about 800 miles down in California, and it wasn't in the place where the hider hit it either. I pulled off an exit. I knew where it had to be in the hole through the wooden post, but it blown out, and I found it about 40 feet away from
Oh
there.
my goodness.
I put it back in the hole and put a little stone in there so it wouldn't blow away. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Tom. We're going to go to Jim Mountain Goat.
Okie doke. So I'll share. I didn't start geocaching because of anyone I met or anyone told me about it. I was researching buying my second GPS in 2004. Uh, actually late 2003. And in the process, I ran across some articles about geocaching, and it sounded like fun. And I eventually decided on one of those blue E-Trex Legends like you had, and uh, and I bought that and I played with it a little bit. I got it for backcountry skiing and mountain biking, and but you have this toy that you spent. Well, I can't remember how much they were, $100, $200 back then, something like that, and you want to use it. So at lunchtime at work, I found geocaches near where I was working. I'd go out at lunch and find the geocache, and uh, and then I got busy with other things for a few months. And actually, my longest slump is longer than my longest streak because of that. But 2005 rolled around, the skiing was crummy, and I really started getting really excited about geocaching at that time, and I did a lot more there. And I started getting a few first to finds. I remember my wife and I were sitting on the patio at the Elk Pub down in Brown's Edition, and my phone, I had phone notifications then. This was early 2006. My phone beeped, and there was a geocache like about 5 blocks away. So I drove over and got that. I told my wife what I wanted to order. She said, "You order this for me, and I'll be right back." And there were some really surprised people that had dropped everything and rushed to get there, and they didn't make it. So, and my first GPS, for what it's worth, I bought in 1992. So,
It that so that was the one that was looked like a miniature, I guess, computer, right? A little, and then an antenna sticking out. So,
it had a little antenna. It was about so tall. I've still got it upstairs, but I don't want to run all the way up there and grab it. I think it was a
Mhm.
Garmin 45 was the name. Got it for use on the sailboat at the time.
Yeah.
So,
So, um, one of the one of the friends I got in helped get into geocaching. Um, we did it was not doing a night cache, but going caching at night. And we went up our Tower Mountain that night, a group of us, and then uh, we decided we wanted to go again and went to Dishman, which is one of our natural areas here in Spokane at night. And he had that GPS or a version like it.
ah,
And so we had to walk pretty slow so it could catch up and we found the caches and a couple weeks later I'm watching I think it was Engineering Marvels and they were doing 90s tech and this guy's GPS was on that show, the exact one. And I just I just had to tell him that, that was so cool how we were out geocaching with a museum grade unit. And his wife, I didn't tell that to her face, but she heard that through the grapevine, and she couldn't have her husband using a museum grade. So, so she allowed him to buy the 60 CXX.
Yeah, I think the 60 CSX is one of my favorite GPS to have. My current one is the Oregon 750, but in fairness, I use the phone most of the time now. So,
And I like how they tried to get phone-like features into
oh
that
yeah,
model. Yeah.
it connects to Wi-Fi and it has a lot of really good features that I
And
like.
you go get your lists and download them, and yeah. Yeah, it's uh I can see the handheld for geocaching not, just not being a factor anymore.
Well,
And
depends because there are some places where you don't have cell coverage and you forget to download. But oh, and I was going to say my second GPS. One of the things I didn't like about the Legend was its compass was based on your movement. If you were standing still, it could be north, could be anywhere. But so I got on eBay and I got a good deal on the Legend Vista model, which wasn't nearly as pretty. It was kind of a dull gray, but it had a magnetic compass. And I got it and I headed out to use it for the first time. And I took my Legend along just to compare them. And they weren't anywhere near showing the same location. And I was wandering around, couldn't find anything. Finally looked at the Legend, went and found the cache with that. And my Vista was like 400 feet off. And I'm like, and I got it from some guy on eBay. So I'm like, I got to thinking, what possibly could this be? And I got looking in the settings, and the Vista came set to NAD 27 or some different datum than the one we normally use. And once I fixed that, it worked fine.
now I'm rethinking my Garmin Colorado because it did the same thing. And and I have my kid with me, and he'd have my 60 CSX. I had the new Colorado, and I'm like going into the middle of the river. He's going the other direction. So what? So maybe my Colorado is set to the wrong datum. I didn't think about that. Well, I didn't know about that at the time.
Well, I got a Colorado solely to be able to do where I goes with it.
And yeah, and have you done a lot of where it goes with
No, I've used phone mostly.
it? Yeah. Oh, we do have a couple hands up. We'll
Yeah.
go to we'll go to Dick, country guy, and then back to Tom. So yeah.
Well, back in April of 2003, I'd always wanted uh, a oh my gosh, a ground detector, metal detector. So I just got it, and my son-in-law was here, and they lived in about 60 miles away, which was a hot spot for caching at that time. And he said to me, "I suppose now you're going to go geocaching." And I said what everybody else says. What the heck is that? So I looked it up on the internet, and there was a cache that was about 10, 12 miles from me that was in what was a community college. And I knew the area good enough that I went and found it the next day. No geocache, no GPS or anything. And I borrowed a GPS. My friend had a GPS. It was a Sport Trek map, Magellan. And so I said to him, I want to borrow that back again. And the only way you could get stuff, it was a serial feed to feed stuff into it. It wasn't nothing like they have now. I couldn't figure out how the cable hooked up to the GPS. I went over to Cabela's. We have a Cabela's not far from here. And I thought, well, he's got the wrong connection. Well, I looked at the ones they had, they were the same thing. So that was long before we had anything I had to use a Palm Pilot then to put my stuff in and print everything out. When we go somewhere, I had a folder that I would have, like Lincoln and Omaha was in each one in their own, and everybody else was in another one. And my wife would look at, we'd figure out where we were going, and then she would read the description to me. So, but I used that Sport Track map. It had like a postage stamp screen on it, is what I called it. It wasn't very big, and I used it I was a Magellan person for a long time, and my son was a Garmin person, and finally I got a 60 CS, and I've had Garmin's ever since. But it's been a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of things I know I would never have seen before. Met a lot of great people. Some of them are on here, but that's how I got started. So
You said that was 2003?
2003. I wasn't a new member when they started, but I was shortly after that, and it was April of 2003. Things are a lot different than they were back then. When you went to log, you didn't log on Sunday because the site was down about half the time or so. You couldn't hardly get in, and but it was still a lot of fun even back then. The thing about back in them days was there wasn't these lamppost caches. I mean, there was a nice hike to it, or you had a great view at the end. There was a reason for going there other than just to get a smiley. And we didn't have, I don't remember when my first event was. I think I'd probably was geocaching for a year or better, maybe 2 years before I ever went to an event. I don't know. But we didn't have events like they do now. You didn't know anybody and I don't know how. It was a long time before I ran into anybody on geocaching when I was out geocaching.
Yeah, that makes sense back then.
So
absolutely.
But that's my story.
Well, thanks. That is good. I like that. Tom, then Jim J. Carr, and then Jim Starcasher.
Okay, so this is the first, the same model that I used. This GPS was made in the 1990s, before selective availability was turned off. The antenna is bigger than most GPS now. And whoops. Yeah, but you can see it has all the letters, all the numbers, and upper and lower case, and all that. All the symbols you ever wanted to use too. So
that was government issue?
Yes.
Okay. So
yeah,
it had the filter then. It filtered out the availability, or?
No, I had to take it back and download data from a fixed point, and it did a digital correction.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a digital correction thing. I took three 3-minute shots on a state forest corner, chose the best one, and probably most of them I hit within 5 feet.
Yeah. Wow. That's just like
This is museum grade.
Did it come with like straps where you could wear like a backpack as your
Yeah.
There it is, yeah.
And I also many times carried a range pole with an antenna on the top of it.
Just to find geocaches?
Oh,
Or just being out in the woods?
Yep, this was before geocaching was invented.
Oh, that's right. You said 90s. Yep. Excellent. Thanks, Tom. That's cool. Let's see. We got Jim J. Carr.
I think Starcasher had his hand up first. Oh, go ahead. Okay. So my original story, since we're talking about it. So I've been caching since I started in 2003. I saw some people at a camp, and I've told this story like 5 years ago when we started this stuff. Um, but some people, I was at a cemetery that was near this camp we were staying at, and some friends were there and they were looking for a geocache in the cemetery. I'm thinking, why the heck would I drive 50 miles just to find like a box of garbage in the woods or trinkets that I don't need, you know? And so, I didn't think anything of it. But a few months later, there's a science fiction author that I followed who had like a bulletin board, and he would post there occasionally. And somebody posted, "Hey, look at this book crossing thing." And it's like, so I said, "Oh, book crossing. That sounds interesting." So I brought it up and I looked for the nearest book to me, and it was in a geocache. And it's like, oh, that's right. Those people did that. And look, they're all over the place near me, you know? But what really was the hook was the one closest to my house was in a pedestrian tunnel, under the road mostly for golf carts, but for some walkers too. And it's like, how did they hide it there? How would you find that with people passing you all the time? It was like in the middle of the tunnel. So we had some friends over for dinner, and I happened to bring up this geocaching thing, and they were fascinated too, but not to the degree to actually start. But he had a GPS. He says, "I'll let you borrow my GPS." It's like, fantastic. Well, his GPS only had 2 decimal points because it was older. So I attempted to geocache with a GPS with 2 decimal points. And that puts you like about what, 50 feet? It could be anywhere within 50 feet of where you're standing. So I had a couple of DNS before I found one. And then I ended up getting a Magellan Sport Track map because I had read that Magellans were better under forest canopies at that time. So that's what I ended up with. And that thing was tough. I mean, I would cache before work in my good clothes, and I could, like, on a wet day, I could put it down and put my knee on it, and I dropped it multiple times and it just kept on ticking. So, but eventually I got a Garmin so I could find where I goes also. And now I rarely use the thing. So,
Oh, let's not forget chirps. We could do chirps as
oh
well.
yeah, yeah, I have one
Yeah.
of those too somewhere laying around here.
So but your Magellan, once you got under a mile, well, how did it present the data to you? Was it in, you're now 4,900 feet away, or was it,
No, it
seven
was still
tenths?
like feet, but it never got like. And I'll actually tell you the truth, I can't remember. That was 22 years ago. So, whoa, I honestly do not remember. I believe it was in feet though. So, but I do not know.
Yeah. The reason I bring it up is I got phew, an upper level, I guess you call it, Magellan. Um, at the time, Gear Guru was still working for Magellan. That's how long ago.
Yes.
And once it got under a mile, I'm expecting, okay, I'm 7 tenths away, 2 tenths, 3 tenths. No, this was in feet. So you got to do the math to convert it to tenths. And I remember seeing him at an event, and I said, what setting am I missing that I can't put this in tenths? Why do I have to be in feet? And he looks at me and he shakes his head and he says, they won't listen to me. So yeah, the Magellans are great. Uh,
I I was the oddball among all my friends, but I thought it did work better under tree cover. But then it was wild out there where clear sky, and I was 50 feet away and they were standing right at it, with 0 feet. And so don't ask me. But I finally caved. I finally got assimilated. So
well, thanks for the story. That is another wow, 2003. Awesome. So we'll head over then now to Jim Starcasher.
Okay, well, uh, it's might be a little long here, but for years I would my parents would go, to Florida in the summer, and my uncle was living there. But anyways, my big summer vacation would be I would drive down to Florida to visit, well, my parents or my uncle or both, whatever. And then, but on the way back, I would spend 2 or 3 days, maybe sometimes 4 days, doing a different route through Ohio, because I would stop at various museums, historic sites, and state parks. It's My goal was to eventually see everything there was to see in Ohio. That's whatever, a long time, long time. But like I said, I did that for probably about 20 years or so, doing different paths through Ohio. But anyways, when I went to a state park, I would go. One of the things I would do is pick one or two of the trails and walk the trails to experience the park. Well, a lot of times the trails aren't marked well, or even with a map, if you're doing a lot of twisting turning, I got lost many times on these trails. I did that again many years. Well, anyways, I had a credit card that was doing reward points, and then they had a catalog that you could order things with the reward points. Well, in the last part of 2011, I looked at the catalog because I had accumulated a lot of points, and so I was looking. I saw this handheld GPS that was good for hiking. And so I thought, that would be perfect. I wouldn't get lost in any of these state parks anymore. So, anyways, I ordered it. Was the Magellan Explorers 510, I think it was. Uh, and I got it, and I said, well, I'm going to hold it. It'll be a Christmas present to myself. So I did. That was my Christmas present for 2011 to myself. But anyways, I didn't open it or anything. It was all sealed up. And, I put it under the tree, whatever. Then I opened it up and started looking through it. And one of the things that was in there was a card that was good for a free 30-day free premium membership to geocaching.com. And so I heard about it, someplace in the background. I didn't really look, but I started looking into it, and uh, found out that there was a geocache that was like 200 feet that way from my house. Uh, and a couple of my favorite restaurants. And so, anyways, I started doing geocaching a little bit, and of course, I was instantly hooked, doing it. So that's how I got started, is because of that little card that was a free 30-day premium membership. Of course, I've been a premium member ever since then. And whatever. That's how I got started, though. So that my first find was in January, mid-January of 2012. Using my free premium membership. So, anyways, but I'm still surprised that I think it was Melissa that still has her own same GPS that she's been using. I mean, my Magellan got broke a few years later. I went to a Garmin E30. Then I still have that one. But I don't know. Actually, that broke a little while ago. I went to a Garmin each Touch 25, which eventually broke. I went to a 35, which eventually broke. I mean, I've gone through quite a few GPSs, and so I'm now on a 62 something, whatever number. That's my current one, and I actually have a replacement one. I think it's a 32X or something like that. I bought it because I know eventually I'm going to break the 62 GX, and so I want to have a GPS as a backup, ready to go when that does happen, because it's going to happen. Because like I said, I go through them quite a lot.
That's smart thinking. So that is something I never really thought about doing because, um, with Lisa and I, when we got married and we combined households, we ended up with like 7 GPSs just lying around. Then her business is storing the GPSs for the Washington State Geocaching Association. I mean, we're tripping over them, right? So I wouldn't think about that. It is one of my embarrassment of riches story with GPSs is when we were back for a Woodstock in Pennsylvania. That was actually, I think, Lisa and I's second date. We drove from Spokane to Warren, Pennsylvania, and we're out trying to find the oldest cache in the area, and we can't find the little dirt road or path that everybody's supposed to take to go get it. And we had the Nuvi in the window. We each had our handhelds going, and we had two more in the back of the truck there that were on standby. And we can't find this. We got all these data points. And I see ahead of us, uh, we're in Amish country. There's some Amish people with their horse and buggy with their fluorescent triangle, on the back, don't hit me. And I'm saying, you know what? They're local. They'll know. Let's go ask them. Just she wouldn't let me. It would have been great. You drive up to the Amish with all these GPSs and say, "Hey, can you help us?" But she wouldn't let me. Eventually, we did find it, and a good time was had by all. Yep. Oh, Tom, your hand's back up. Thanks, Jim. Got mute on.
That was on State Game Lands 219 in Erie County, Pennsylvania. I went and found it last April
Oh,
before
yeah.
the eclipse, and it was hidden by a surveyor that I worked with in the Pennsylvania Bureau of Forestry. And it was within 100 yards of where the state line would have been if it had extended all the way across and cut out Erie. It's 42 degrees north. So, did you get your feet wet going there?
This was.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think this was
It was across a little swampy area to get there.
It
You
was.
didn't take the right trail in. There's a dry
No, there's
trail.
only one trail, one road across the bridge.
No, okay, yes. There's only one road across the bridge, but after you get across the bridge, there are two trails. One's dry, one is swampy.
Okay.
I did the dry trail.
Okay.
It's fun. Well, if you guys don't mind, we can get to the Pi Day portion of our event here. So, a little story to tell, and you don't have to hang around for this. You can, if coins are not your thing, you can bail. But this is a Pi Day coin we made. Okay, and the story about this has many different tangents. I don't know if you can see very well, but here's a couple more. Our Pi Day coins, we had many versions, 11 of them. This was in 2011. They're a two-part coin, actually. Each one came with the base. This has the tracking number on it. And then a top that just fit right in there. And it was pretty cool. And so how this came about is um, our Coin Fest guru, he has what's called multi-events. And the ones I remember the most were when calendar days were, the day, month, year were the same, 999, 10, so on and so forth. And they would design the same, they design a base coin, and then people or different groups from around the country would color theirs differently, and you'd have all these different versions of this same coin. And then people could go about and collect them. And we had just gotten into the coin business. So it was not 2011, I'm sorry, it's like 2015. Sorry, 2015, that makes more sense. And because as everybody knows, pi is 3.141, right? And so you won't be able to see it on our design, but we have on the edge of the coin, we have pi going all the way around until it can't go around anymore. And so one of the little things we did is we did 3.14.15. So that was the year these came out, 3/14/15. And there was 11 versions of it. And so sort of want to fast forward to like 3 years ago. Somebody is asking, how many versions were there and who were the owners? And how many were made of each version? Well, we're the ones that did that. You think I have that information? Uh-uh. I have no idea. I knew who ordered what. Um, I know I have two full sets because, you know, I could do that and did, but it's just absolutely crazy. We had um, this was this is actually a version that came out the following year. We added on a new version for 3 years afterwards, and then it has now run its course. Now we're going to let them become legacy. And but it was such an amazing experience. That was the first time we got back then they were called Groundspeak, geocaching.com. We let them know, hey, we're doing this. Do you guys want a version? And they said, yeah. And we're asking them, okay, well, how many of these do you want? And let's do 500. I'm sure, okay, we'll do that. And the thing when geocaching.com gets involved in a coin project, it just lowers the price for everybody because they can, the more of a coin you buy, the cheaper each one is. And so it's always beneficial when they get involved and get their share. So so they're involved and everything just went well. I mean, we started early enough that any design problems we could overcome, any manufacturing problems were overcome. The coins arrived to each of the participants well in time, and it just went well. But so we had 11 different groups around the country doing their Pi Day events where the hosts, they could sell the coin if they wanted or give it away, whatever they wanted to do. And they had to have a minimum of 50 each. And then we ordered, I think it was like 250 of a version for cash advance and another 250 for the coin company, Compass Creek Designs. And then Groundspeak, geocaching.com, they had their 500 and it's March 13th. And I am I can't go to sleep. I am so worried because these are a lot of coins. I mean, the people who had to order 50, there was a minimum buy-in. And what's going to happen with Groundspeak when they want, here I have 400 of these left. What are you going to do about it? And I fell asleep. And I wake up the next morning on the 14th, and there's a message from Groundspeak wanting to buy some of our version because they have already sold out of 500. And so, oh my goodness, and we couldn't sell them any of our versions because ours were selling out. And it's not even 10 o'clock in the morning yet. And all the events went well. And it's just, I call it the the grocery checkout lane predicament. So whatever you choose, it's going to be wrong. So we were thinking, well, maybe we should order more of these. This could be big. Let's tap the brakes here. This is, yeah, there wasn't a coin like this at the time. It was expensive. And, boom, they're gone before, the army does anything that day, right? It is. So, and then we'll experience in the future the other way. People are going to love this. Let's order a gazillion of them. And we basically have half a gazillion left in storage here. So just a little insight into the coin world and the excitement that Pi Day gave Cash Advance and Compass Creek Designs something to talk about in 2015. So with that, I'm sad to announce drinks are full price, and so are the Pi Day coins. But hey, it's been a pleasure, guys. Thanks for hanging with me. I appreciate it. Um, I was going to go into a little bit of history of Groundspeak, geocaching.com to sort of tie into where did you fit in the timeline. And I got to thinking, you know what, this would be more betterous for we'll be doing a 25th anniversary Mappy hour theme. We'll save it for that. So that'll be coming up shortly. From what I understand, this all started in May, right? So it'll be soon. So, folks, there's nothing else. Cheers and thank you. We'll save the chat, save the recording, and we'll see you next time.